Hi, this is Tia Linda reporting on the Women's March of 2021. The eyes of Texas and the rest of the nation were upon us as we stood in front of the Capitol building in Austin, ground zero for the assault on women's rights over our own bodies, exemplified by the passing of the unconstitutional SB 8. The rally kicked off with the Girl Scouts of America presenting the flags and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Star-Spangled Banner. As we sang, counter-protesters began screaming loudly. We responded by singing the national anthem even louder and soon drowned them out. Speakers included local and state elected officials, lawyers who were fighting SB 8 in the courts, and OBGYNs who told us stories of not being able to provide medical options for their patients. We heard from organizations such as Emily's List, Lilith Fund, Deeds Not Words, and Gen Z for Change. Most notably, we heard from a 12-year-old girl who worries about her and her younger sister. It breaks my heart to know that she has to carry around this fear, but my heart also swelled with pride to hear her speaking out against this injustice. Bien hecho, mija. I got your back.
Recorded in Round Rock, Texas, in front of a live teleconferenced audience, it's the What's Update with Xander Quation.
Season 3, Crackpots, Karens, and Robber Barons.
Hey, welcome to the What's Update. I'm Xander Quation. Let's get started. We're kicking off the news with some good news for a change, with our news segment, Good On Ya. Jeff Ament of Pearl Jam is building skate parks in Montana. The grunge bassist and rock and roll Hall of Famer has funded, or helped to fund, 27 skate parks across the state, including several on Montana Native American reservations. That's in addition to the 3 he helped build on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. In a ceremony at the Blackfeet Reservation, Chief Earl Oldperson, man, can you imagine going through grade school with a name like that? Chief Earl Oldperson bestowed Ament with a flag of the Blackfeet Nation and further honored him for his charitable works with a Blackfeet name, which translates to holds water. The chief compared Ament to the beaver, which is an animal the Blackfeet hold in high regard, stating, "Because the beaver builds dams that create ponds that allow other creatures to flourish." Mm-hmm. Good on you, Jeff. Keep doing what you're doing. Woohoo! Yeah. The number of COVID fatalities in the U.S. has passed 700,000. Oof, good feeling gone. Most of the last 100,000 who died were unvaccinated, despite readily available and free vaccines. As I say, you can lead a horse to water, but some jackass on Fox or OANN will tell the horse not to drink just to own the libs. Hey, I wonder who's taking money from the glue industry. Now, speaking of the Rona, if you live in Idaho or Alaska, do not get into a car accident or have a stroke, because due to exploding COVID hospitalizations, there are no emergency room beds left. Both states have enacted emergency orders, called Crisis Standards of Care, and are having to ration health care based not on who needs treatment the most, but on who's most likely to survive. Yeesh. According to Dr. Kristen Solana Walkinshaw, Chief of Staff at Providence, Alaska Medical Center in Anchorage, quote, "We have been required to develop and enact policies and procedures to ration medical care and treatments, including dialysis and specialized ventilatory support. Damn. And you sure as shit better not have a heart attack in Idaho, as they have issued a universal do not resuscitate order, which says hospitalized patients should receive no attempts at resuscitation, since, quote, the likelihood of survival after a cardiac arrest is extremely low for adult patients." No. So, thanks to folks not doing the responsible thing and getting vaccinated, Alaskans and Idahoans better get used to hearing, give me Ma some ibuprofen for her broken hip and tell her to quit crying and walk it off. Yeah.
Take that, Mima.
California Governor Gavin Newsom announced that California will require all students to get a coronavirus vaccine when it gets full FDA approval. Meanwhile, Greg Abbott of Texas and Ron DeSantis of Florida are rushing to require kids to start each day with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by licking their palms and giving every other student a big sloppy high five. Gross. While we're on the subject of unhinged sociopaths, InfoWars founder and right-wing screaming enthusiast Alex Jones has to pay damages to families of the Sandy Hook shooting after losing 2 defamation lawsuits. The default judgments were issued by District Judge Maya Guerra Gamble of Travis County, Texas, our next-door county, after Jones and InfoWars failed to produce documents and evidence supporting claims that the school shooting in Newton, Connecticut was a hoax and a false flag operation carried out by crisis actors. Seriously? The biggest crisis actor is Baron Harkonnen over here. He can make a crisis out of everything from the Green New Deal to flamboyant amphibians. Recently, the hacker group Anonymous revealed more than 150 gigabytes of passwords, pictures, buying history, and other embarrassing details after they hacked internet company Epic. Epic, spelled with a K to give it that Germanic feel that's all the rage with those who are full of rage, hosts or hosted sites for all kinds of crazies, from the Proud Boys and other far-right websites to QAnon conspirators to narc on women website prolifewhistleblower.com. I guess you could say that that hack revealed a who's who of who hates who.
Yeah.
Singer R. Kelly faces the possibility of life in prison after being found guilty in a federal trial. The R&B superstar was convicted of crimes including racketeering, sexual exploitation of a child, kidnapping, bribery, sex trafficking, and a violation of the Mann Act. Understandably, Kelly was pretty pissed off about the verdict. Remember, kids, consent is key, not pee. Weird. We're gonna cancel this one. From one malodorous fluid to another, the United Kingdom has a problem with gas. Not that kind of gas, you reprobates! Get your mind out of the cooler! Gas pumps in Britain are running dry due to a shortage of fuel truck drivers. It seems that during Brexit, they told all the foreign drivers that they were mooches and that they didn't want them. Now they need them and can't get them back, since in the meantime, their home countries got their shit together.
Yep.
Now, even British drivers have moved on as well, citing unsafe and unclean roadside conditions, dwindling wages, and not to mention that there are safer jobs available. As one driver put it, why should I drive a 44,000-liter bomb around when I can get the same money for delivering boxes of crisps into the supermarket? Coming soon to theaters, the newest Hollywood reboot, Dr. Strangelore, or How I Learned to Start Worrying About Driving the Bomb. In our continuing coverage of Dixie Pixie, living legend, and national treasure, Miss Dolly Parton, we present our recurring segment, Dolly Watch. Recently, Lil Nas X appeared on the BBC Radio 1 Live Lounge program, where he thrilled the audience with a few songs from his debut album. The audience was not expecting what came next. He showed his love for country music and Miss Dolly by performing a hauntingly beautiful rendition of Jolene. Soon after the performance went viral online, the Queen of Country herself took to Twitter to praise the performance, writing, "I was so excited when someone told me that Lil Nas X had done my song Jolene. I had to find it and listen to it immediately, and it's really good. Of course, I love him anyway. I was surprised and I'm honored and flattered. I hope he does good for both of us. Thank you, Lil Nas X."
Aww.
Now, I don't know about you folks, but I can't wait for Dolly and Lil Nas X to release a new version of Islands in the Stream.
Yeah.
Stick around. We'll be right back.
Woohoo! Yeah! Woohoo! Yeah!
Welcome back, everybody. My Bubby recently turned 80. She is an amazing woman. She is smart and funny and sharp as a tack. She's an artist and a philanthropist. She was an accomplished businesswoman in the insurance industry when women weren't allowed to climb the corporate ladder. She's also very tech-savvy for an octogenarian. She has a laptop, a tablet, she rocks an iPhone, and she's a whiz at navigating her smart TV. My Booby Jody is an astounding human, and I love and admire her very much. Having said that, I wouldn't want my Bubby to be my representative in Congress. I wouldn't want her to be my state representative. I wouldn't want her to be my mayor. But Xander, how can you say such a thing about such a smart and accomplished woman? Good question. Charles Ernest Grassley is an American politician serving as the President pro tempore emeritus of the United States Senate. He is the senior United States Senator from Iowa, having held the seat since 1981. He's been elected to that office 6 times. Chuck Grassley is currently 88 years old and is running for re-election in 2022.
No.
Now, I don't want to alarm you nice people, but our government is being held hostage by elderlies.
Dun, dun, dun.
The average age of the Senate is 63 years. The average age in the House of Representatives is a bit younger, at a spry 58 years. There are literally people serving in Congress that have held that position for more than 50 years. 3 of the 9 Supreme Court justices are over 70, and 2 have held office for more than 25 years. So, here's the thing. Our federal government is in dire need of age and term limits. If you're an ordinary American citizen, you are eligible to receive full Social Security benefits at 66 years and 2 months old if you were born in 1955. The full benefit retirement age will increase to 67 for people born in 1960 or after. If you can hold out until 70 to retire, you can collect a tiny bit more of that government cheese. Hang on now, don't get too excited, post-boomers. Social Security won't even be a thing when you reach elderly status. Not if Republicans like Mitch McConnell have anything to say about it.
Word.
But I digress. You must be at least 25 years of age to be elected to the House of Representatives. You need to be at least 30 to be elected to the Senate. The President has to be at least 35. There is no constitutional minimum age for the Supreme Court, which is interesting because they have lifetime appointments. The U.S. Constitution, in its infinite wisdom, insists that you should mostly have your adulting together to hold federal public office. I mean, it makes sense. Your 12-year-old cousin Skippy may be a member of Mensa and a microbiology PhD candidate at MIT, but he's got no business making laws for adults. Nobody is going to realistically argue for the electability of Senator Skippy.
Go, Skippy, go.
So, why, in the name of GB, do we give a pass to septuagenarians and octogenarians schlepping their creepy old bones around the halls of Congress decade after decade? If Joe the janitor has to retire at 70, why the hell was a raging racist and misogynist like Strom Thurmond allowed to hold office until just after his 101st birthday, only retiring after a health scare in January 2003? P.S. He died in June of that same year, just 6 months shy of his 102nd birthday. If we can agree that there is a reasonable and acceptable upper age limit for being competent at ordinary jobs, should we not hold the people who make public policy decisions to the same standard? You wouldn't let your 90-year-old grandpa take command of the remote control, much less make public policy on satellite or fiber optic communications or stem cell-based organ cloning research. You wouldn't let your 85-year-old great-aunt Mildred drive 3 blocks to H-E-B, but we have a bunch of ultra-cockers making interstate transportation policy. My Bubby is a progressive champion of gay rights, animal rights, women's rights, and human rights, but she still isn't the most qualified person to be making decisions about the legal status of a 19-year-old trans person post-transition. Let's assume for a moment that, much like any other schlub on the street, Congress, the President, or Supreme Court justices must retire by their, let's be generous here, 70th birthday. That still leaves us with another problem that nobody seems to want to talk about. Noted curmudgeon and legendary wordsmith Samuel Clemens, better known to most as Mark Twain, noted that politicians are like diapers. They need to be changed often, and for the same reasons. Now, in case you're a bit dim, let me explain. He's saying they're both full of shit. But Xander, everybody knows Mark Twain was famously no fan of politicians. Why should we listen to him? Okay, it's fair enough. You want a politician with some gravitas? Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of England during World War II, stated, After a time, civil servants tend to become no longer servants and no longer civil. See? Winnie the Church wasn't a big fan of people perma-chilling their cheeks in public offices either.
Nah.
But Xander, everyone knows that Winston Churchill was racist about India and an unapologetic imperialist. Why should we listen to him? Okay, fine. I got one more for you. El Paso's favorite son, Alan Tudyk and Gene Roddenberry notwithstanding, Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke, former Democratic U.S. representative and potential candidate for governor of Texas, once stated, quote, 6 terms in the House, which is 12 years, or 2 terms in the Senate, which is also 12 years, should be enough to be able to confront those challenges that you were elected to confront, to move the ball forward on those things that you want to pursue, and then to get out of the way, so that our democracy and our institutions are reflective of the people of this country. There's the rub. Inasmuch as an 88-year-old from Iowa has nothing in common with a newly minted 18-year-old voter from Round Rock, that same 88-year-old from Iowa at the end of his 6th term seeking his 7th term in the Senate has 0 in common with the guys bagging groceries at H-E-B. This one's gonna be a long walk, but I challenge you to come along, if you dare.
Nah.
Imagine a young Tom Hanks, fresh off the bus from Oakland to New York City. He was young, he was hungry, he was willing to do the lead in a TV movie about 80s satanic panic over Dungeons & Dragons. Stupid and awful, right?
Yep.
But in spite of that turn of a film, young Tom got offered a lead in the Men in Drag laugh fest of a network sitcom called Bosom Buddies. Just a mere 40-ish years later, after 6 Academy Award nominations, including 2 consecutive wins for Best Actor, 12 Primetime Emmy Award nominations for his work on television, which includes 7 wins for his work as a producer on various limited series and television films, an AFI Lifetime Achievement Award, a Kennedy Center Honors Medallion, a Presidential Medal of Freedom, and a Golden Globe Cecil B. DeMille Award for outstanding contributions to the world of entertainment, Tom Hanks is one of the most beloved and celebrated actors of all time. It's estimated that his net worth is somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 million. I hear you asking, what does this have to do with term limits? Good question. Most people agree that Tom Hanks is a decent fella. He donates his time and money to good causes. He educates through his many docuseries. Most people in the industry say that he is a peach of a human being. But Tom Hanks is not a regular guy anymore. He hasn't been for quite some time. Even though he works pretty hard to make the world a better place through his contributions to television and film, I sincerely doubt the guy has personally bought a gallon of milk in a couple of decades. And he is actively trying to be a good guy. When you have people in the entertainment fields that have reached the Kanye or Beyonce or Kardashian or Oprah or George Lucas level of wealth and fame, and have held that position, in some cases for more than 30 years, they have lost touch with what it means to be an ordinary person. And politicians are not all that different in that regard. There are some that have been in power for so long that they have forgotten that their job is to represent the interests of the janitors, the grocery clerks, and teachers, and firemen, and working people that hired them. When they were first elected, they may have actually had every intention to represent the state or district that put them there. But after a while, they become entrenched. Incumbents have a re-election rate averaging 98%. The hardest part is getting the job in the first place. Once they have the job, it's easier to keep it. As soon as they get re-elected, they have to start running again for their seat. The cycle of fundraising for re-election is non-stop. Money pours in from special interest groups and PACs and lobbyists and so on and so forth. Eventually, they're more beholden to their donors than their constituents. Then, 30 years down the line, they don't even know the price of milk anymore. Our institutions are run by geriatrics protected by a system that sucks any good civic impulse out of them. They might head to Washington, like Mr. Smith, but after 3 or 4 decades with a certainty of incumbency, fat donor checks, and unchecked power, they become a bit more like Willie Stark from All the King's Men. To put it in perspective, Republican Senate Minority Leader Moscow Mitch McConnell has been selling out democracy and the people of Kentucky since Rocky Balboa fought Soviet powerhouse Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. Dianne Feinstein, Democrat from California, has been surfing the Senate halls since the Red Hot Chili Peppers were under the bridge. Patrick Lee, a Democrat from Vermont, has been in office since Captain and Tennille topped the charts with "Love Will Keep Us Together." And our old friend, and by that I mean extremely old and minimally friendly, Iowa Republican Chuck Grassley has been haunting the halls of the Senate since Friday the 13th Part 2 was released. This needs to stop. Our system is broken. Look, I'm a huge fan of the concept of public service. My tia Linda is a city council person. Hell, I'll probably try and run for public office one day. But I can't stop thinking of what Beto O'Rourke said. Move the ball forward on those things that you want to pursue, and then get out of the way, so that our democracy and our institutions are reflective of the people of this country. We'll be right back with Wendy Liebman. Stick around.
Woohoo! Yeah.
And I've become vegan between meals. I'm very, not quite there yet. I've been eating healthier though, and I have to say, when I eat healthier, I feel so much hungrier and weaker and more deprived and a little gassy.
Welcome back. Let's hop right in with our 3 standard questions. Who you, what's due, and why?
Who am I? I will have to check with my therapist. I'm comedian Wendy Liebman. And what do? I think of things that I think are funny and I repeat them to an audience to try to make them laugh, which is such a bizarre job. And why? Again, I'll have to ask my therapist. It makes me joyful to make people laugh. More as I get older, I think just making them smile makes me happy too. Aww. So if I could just do stand up to try to make the audience smile, I might start that.
Well, it is at the end of the day, especially these days, it's all about trying to make people's days just a little bit better.
Well, I made you smile, and you seem like you're not easy to make laugh, Xander.
It depends on what kind of humor we're going for, and like some days it takes the most sophisticated, high-class humor to get me to laugh. Another day, somebody says like a curse word or two, and I'm like. So I'll have to check with my therapist on that one.
What?
I'll have to check with my therapist on that one.
Oh.
All right. So is there anything you're working on or have coming out soon that you'd like to tell our audience about?
Sure. I just taped Funny Women of a Certain Age, because I am of a certain age. I just turned 56. It's funny because like now that I'm 56, I've been forgetting everything, like that I'm 60. So I'm of a certain age, and I'm not allowed to say where it's going to air, but the first 2 of the series, Funny Women of a Certain Age, have aired on Showtime. So I'm hoping it will be on Showtime. So I'm doing that, and I've already taped it, and now it's just a matter of it's going to come out next couple of months. And I'm writing a musical. Ooh. And it's about 3 stand-up comedians in Las Vegas over Valentine's Day, right after the 2016 election.
Oh. So this is going to be hilarious and heavy. So.
Well, one of the comedians is very political, but he's not allowed to be really in Las Vegas.
Oh.
So that's the turn. Well, that's one of the turns. And then it's about love. And I've written the music. I've always played the piano, but I can't read a note. I can read the guitar chord and then pick it up on the piano. I think it's every stand-up comedian's dream to be a rock and roll star.
Absolutely.
And
See, Tim mentioned for that.
who?
Tim mentioned a musical comedian, one of those things like the rock and roll nerd.
Jack Black.
Right. Jack Black, yeah.
Yeah.
I know Adam Sandler plays with some bands every Christmas, and yeah, Dennis Leary sings.
Hanukkah, madam, Hanukkah.
Right, Hanukkah, not right. What am I thinking?
I know, right?
His main thing is the Hanukkah song.
That's right.
I think we're on our
I
fourth
upped it,
version of
yeah.
that one at this point. Yeah.
So yes, so I'm writing my musical, and the songs just came to me. Like I'd never written a song before. But my husband is very musical, and he comes from a musical family, so there's a lot of music in the house and in the genes, and yeah.
So on the subject matter of the musical, does political humor not fly in Vegas, or does it not fly in that area, and that's the subject material, or?
I'm not sure if it flies. I haven't performed there in a while, but this was just this one club's policy where it's political, and because politics divides people, and but this comedian says we're already divided, so let's bring it to the surface, and if we can make each other laugh, that's like getting a first down or something. It's like we're connecting.
I can definitely attest to that. So for this musical, are you drawing on personal experience?
Absolutely. I feel like my 35 plus years of doing stand-up it's just like this big, it's a treasure trove of memories, and I'm amalgamating them. And I also want to give credit to the comedians that have gone before that have influenced me. Everybody from Lily Tomlin to Gary Shandling. And so there's a little bit of that.
Will you yourself be starring in this, or will you be taking a purely writing stance?
Absolutely not me. I was Eliza in My Fair Lady in 1976, and before then Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. But I'm writing this for a 40-something-year-old woman.
Oh.
So haven't cast it yet, haven't finished writing it yet, but I'm close. I've been writing it for a little while now, and I worked on it a lot during the pandemic.
Will there be a filmed version of it, or will this purely be for stage?
Well, down the line. I haven't thought that far. I just want to get through the Act 2. But that's a great idea, Xander.
Yeah. As long as you got such great material, might as well even cast a wider net with the digital release.
Well, one of the reasons that I'm doing it is because I have so many jokes that I want to have live on. So getting to write them into.
Couldn't fit these into one comedy special, but if I do a musical about comedians, I can fit all of the jokes.
They're like my babies.
I've actually done a little bit of the musical theater background, so if you happen to need perhaps a dorky 20-year-old as a part in the film, you can hit me up.
I will put that in my mind.
All right.
Have you ever done stand-up?
Not properly, but this show is getting sort of close to it. It just takes a little bit more ridiculosity.
But standing in front of an audience is a different animal.
Yeah, well, I definitely have experience with that part.
You have?
Initial parts of this show to a lot of my theater career in the past. but I do eventually want to do so. But right now, I don't feel like it's the best time to like be out with people. Yeah.
This is true. I've done a few shows, and it's a different experience in every way. The first couple of shows, people were shy. The audience was shy, and plus the comedians, we haven't performed live in a long time, and that it is a muscle. And then also I've done a few shows where the audience is just so eager to laugh and be a part of a community. I mean, that's what live stand-up is. So it's just the greatest to have people laughing in a group together. Like, I always thought that laughter, it was healing. Norman Cousins, who's a writer, and he helped himself get over a disease by laughing 10 minutes vigorously every day. Well, laughter is the best medicine.
Yes. All that and medicine.
And medicine. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yes, yes. And he said, even if it's placebo, it feels good to laugh. I mean, there's a whole branch of science called gelotology about the science of laughter, because it does do stuff to your body. And I forgot where I was going because I'm 61. I'm 60.
the train of thought here is like drifting across multiple tracks.
Yeah, don't let me engineer.
But I do imagine that it must be very cathartic to get back up on stage after the last year and a half. Well, actually going on 2 years now.
And then a year prior to that, I had been hit by a car. So I was in bed for like a year. So I had only performed twice. And then there was the, lock everything shut. But yeah, it did feel really cathartic to that's what I was saying, that I've always said that laughter is healing, but when you laugh in a group, I think the healing is exponential. Well, you know that when you're laughing with your friends, it feels so good.
Yeah, and then when you expand that out to like an entire comedy club, you just feel that sort of energy in the air. I mean, it's kind of cheesy to say so.
And what?
I mean, it's kind of cheesy to say the whole. It's like you gotta get that energy, man. But it truly is it's a crazy feeling. Plus, it is a bit harder to make people laugh than cry. But we laugh so that we do not cry, as many Jewish comedians have said before.
Well, I was going to be a therapist, and I was doing psych research, and I took the mail in from the wrong apartment, and it was the course catalog for an adult ed center, and in it was a class called How to Be a Stand-Up Comedian. And when I saw it, it was like light bulbs, and I just was in awe. And then I took the class, and I decided I would rather make 100 people laugh than one person cry, and I decided not to be a therapist. I don't know if I made the right decision, but my sister's a therapist.
So would you say like that's the light bulb moment that made you decide to start doing stand-up comedy for a career?
I didn't know if it was a career or just a night class, but it so resonated with me. And I was excited by it because I had done a lot of theater. I was used to performing. And then in college, I did one play called Uncommon Women and Others, written by Wendy Wasserstein. And I had all the funny lines at the end of each scene. My character was maybe catatonic, maybe a philosopher, but I got the laughs at the end of every scene. Her name was Carter. And getting a laugh is addictive. So, they say laughter is the best medicine, but for a comedian, hearing it is good medicine too.
Laughter is the best medicine. And in that case, I believe a comedian receiving laughter, it's kind of like morphine in terms of that medicine.
Kind of like what?
Kind of like morphine, because
Oh.
like it's addictive after a while.
Yeah.
So I saw that your first nationally televised appearance was on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Now, what was that experience like?
It was so surreal, Xander, because I had been watching him growing up. And I remember watching, I think it was Joan Rivers on Carson, and until she got her first laugh, I was so nervous for her. Then I could relax. I also was very anxious socially. I remember being on a plane and seeing the flight attendant behind the curtain giving the speech into her intercom and feeling nervous for her. Like that's how nervous I was. But then I took this class. The teacher, his name is Ron Lynch, and he's still a comedian. He's been on the Sarah Silverman program, and he's just hilarious, and still a good friend. And he came with me to the taping of the Tonight Show, and another friend from Boston. So I flew to LA. I did the show. The whole thing is surreal. I had read once that Louis Anderson said he was having an out-of-body experience. He watched himself do the Tonight Show from like above. I didn't have that. But after the show, Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon came to my dressing room. And I do feel like I wasn't present. I feel like I was in the next room because that was so surreal. And they were like they were taller than 6 feet. They were very tall, both of them. And then I flew back to Boston because I had a day job. And I remember thinking on the plane, well, if this plane goes down, I've been on the Tonight Show. Now I realize I'm glad the plane didn't go down, but
Yeah, but I imagine just a moment, I'm like,
yeah.
If the story had to end right now, this would be a nice crescendo, but let's not jump to that.
Exactly. I need to be on Letterman.
Yeah. And then later on the Tonight Show again when Leno came about.
And then once I was on Fallon before he was the Tonight Show host. I would get a late night show.
At the late night trifecta.
Yes, I've not been on Conan. I'm still hoping to get booked. No, I'm kidding.
So what was the initial response to your appearance on the Tonight Show? Did it change things for you career-wise?
Well, I then moved to LA. I got an agent, and he's still my agent.
Nice.
So, yeah, it changed. I changed because I felt validated by Johnny Carson, the gold standard. It was different. Television was different then because there were 4 channels and everybody watched Johnny Carson pretty much at night. So now there are just like 150,000 options.
Yeah,
So it's a different, and people tend to watch late night TV the next day, I've heard.
I can attest to that as well. And then I can also attest to sometimes being lost in the sea of content.
Mhm.
I know. Right now I'm on British crime dramas. But I'm also watching all of Mary Tyler Moore. And I'm on the 5th season.
So, well, now we're on that. What kinds of British crime dramas are you watching right now?
right now I'm watching Line of Duty. And it's really just a way for me to sit on the couch and eat peanut M&Ms for 2 hours. No, but they're very compelling. But we did watch all of Cheers. I say we, my husband and I, we watched all of Cheers together. You're too young. You don't even know what.
Oh no, I know what it is. Like,
Okay.
keep in mind, I may be Gen Z, but I have Gen X parents, so I know all.
Oh, okay. So they say it takes 10,000 hours to become really good at something, and I'm an expert at the Golden Girls.
Oh man.
Nice. Well, among certain social circles, that's a incredible skill. Like if you are so well versed in Golden Girlsology, that gets you places.
I know. Well, I think I'm the age of one of the characters, the B. Arthur character. When the show started, I'm 60 and think that's how old she was, which really depresses me.
No kidding. Like whenever like I'm in an RTF class right now. I've been in several radio, TV, film classes where it's like, okay, we're gonna go over the history of this one thing. Let's go like the sitcom. Let's go like this part of television. This part of this. And I tend to try and watch the screenings or anything like that with my parents because they probably know something about it. And then it is always a experience for them to realize, oh wait, that was 40 years ago.
Yeah, some of it is very sexist and wrong.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Make sure to go.
But a lot of it holds up. A lot of Cheers held up. Anyway, in this taping of Funny Women of a Certain Age, I say the only thing that I don't like about being 60, other than that society they think my life is over, and I feel like I'm just starting my second act. And then I tell you what really bothers me about being 60. But it's true. I do feel, you have to watch the special.
Oh, I look forward to it.
Okay. I do feel like I am just starting my second act as a librarian in Maine. I would love to have a sitcom where I play a librarian in Maine. So I'm gonna
maybe
write
that could be the thing after or before the musical idea.
Yeah, I have a lot to write.
I know the feeling. I'm still in college.
What year are you?
I'm currently a junior by year, but senior by credit hours.
Oh, okay. So you're going to graduate early.
No, I fully intend to go for the full 4 years, but I'm trying to make the most of what I can do in college.
And you're double major.
Plus, I'm double majoring, and then afterwards, I intend to go into contract law in law school. So
you're an overachiever, Xander.
You're not even the 100th person to tell me that.
But I love that. I mean, that's what you need in life, is to have energy and motivation and drive. I have drive, but it's really slow. But I am driven. But I want to give you advice, okay? Can I? Because I could be your grandmother at this point.
All right.
Okay, pick a job. I know you want to be a contract lawyer, whatever.
No, that is not the main plan.
Okay.
This is actually the main plan, but
like entertainment.
Yeah.
Pick a job where you like the clothes you have to wear to work.
I think I'm on that right now. I think I got it.
That's my only advice. And floss.
Oh yeah, dental hygiene in general is very important. So on the earlier subject of inappropriate content, you had also done a prominent part in the film The Aristocrats, and your piece was very funny and very unexpected also. So how did that gig come about?
So I had known Penn Jillette. I had known Penn and Teller, I had been on one of their specials doing stand-up, and then they were on something that I was hosting. And so when Penn and Paul Provenza decided to do this documentary, he thought he would include me. And the Aristocrats is a joke that they give you the blueprint of it and then you put your own spin on it. And I didn't want to say what they wanted me to say. Like, I didn't want to, it didn't feel right to me. And so I flipped it. And again, you have to watch it. I'm not going to say it here. But I got a lot of favorable response to that.
So,
and surprise, because I'm very dirty.
and as such, like, you've been in the business for a while now. So have you experienced sexism or discrimination in the workplace or anything like that? And if so, would you?
A really important question. And the truth is, I'm either really naive or undesirable, but I never had that experience. Maybe early on, like one of the club owners was lascivious, and yeah, and one guy had that whole casting couch thing, but I did not experience it. That being said, there is so much sexism and gender. It's not a great work environment for women because it's like a boys' club. But here's the thing. The more we see it, the more we see female comedians, and we see them all the time now, which is fantastic. The more we see them, the more it just becomes another thing. It doesn't become it's not an anomaly. And I think the same in politics. And the reason is that I think men haven't, or not only men and women haven't fully accepted the female comedian, is because when I'm on stage, I'm the leader and self-appointed, like I'm up there. And so not everybody wants to put their trust in me to be the leader. So as I said earlier, it's just a question of seeing it more.
Well, that's partially why I try to bring it up and address it. You know, as long as we can like start addressing this more and start talking about it more, then perhaps we have the opportunity to affect real change.
Exactly. I'm glad you asked me that.
And speaking of changes, how do you feel that the industry as a whole has changed since you began your career?
Well, there are a lot of new ways to put content out there. We didn't have the internet when I started, even down to GPS. Like, I used to drive to a gig with the address written on a napkin that I had written down. So turn left at the gravel driveway, like literally. One time I was going to New Hampshire and I thought I had lost, like, past my exit, and I was panicking, and I pulled over and I thought for a minute and I realized this pair of shoes I'm wearing, they were made in New Hampshire, and their signature was that they put a map of New Hampshire on the bottom of the shoes. And
No way.
On my word, I literally pulled over and looked at the bottom of my shoe. And I didn't pass. I've tried for years to find those shoes again, but everybody just thinks I made it up. I swear. Maybe
that is the closest I've seen to a real life magic item. It's like it's like Chekhov's shoe. Like, wait a minute, this thing has a very strange design on it.
I can find my way out.
It was like I was Get Smart or something.
Sorry, we've heard some crazy stories on this, but
Well, the question was, how has the industry changed?
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's more technology, obviously, and people are telling more stories instead of like just jokes.
So would you say that the biggest, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You say that the biggest advantageous change has been an increase in how we communicate?
That's a good way to put it, that we're able to reach more people than before.
All right. So you started into this idea earlier, but I must ask, who are your comedy influences? Like, who'd you hold up as like someone in the career that influenced your own style?
That influenced me.
That influenced your own style of comedy?
I used to watch the comedians in Boston where I started, and I'd have to say the people around me that influenced me were Don Gavin. I know you mean bigger, but I have to give these people credit. John Gavin, Laura Keitlinger, Brian Kiley, who was Conan's head writer for many, many years, and is a great stand-up, probably my favorite stand-up, Brian Kiley. And Jonathan Katz, who did Dr. Katz Professional Therapist. So it's like I heard those, and Kevin Meaney, the late great Kevin Meaney. So I heard those voices and saw how they worked and studied them. I also got to study every comedian that came through my home club, which was Catch a Rising Star. I got to see everybody from Richard Belzer to Brett Butler, just on and on. I would study comedy. And so those are the voices I heard. But I have to say that early on, like in my formative years, Barbara Streisand was my jam, like funny girl. She made me want to be funny. I heard they're redoing that with Beanie Feldstein on Broadway.
But it is kind of hard to beat one of the paragons of Jewish comedy.
And also Cher. I used to watch Sonny and Cher, and she was funny. And Flip Wilson, you'll have to ask your grandma. And then, but also the comedians that I watched were Joan Rivers and Woody Allen. I was intrigued by Woody Allen movies. Yeah, Take the Money and Run and Sleeper. I just thought he thought outside of the box, and I loved that. And as I said, Gary Shandling, and I love David Letterman. And I remember I worked doing psych research, and my coworkers and I would have lunch, and they would say, "I bet you could make David Letterman laugh, Wendy." And so, yeah, and then I got to be on the show, so that was a thrill. To meet your idols, Lily Tomlin, I've met her a few times.
So it seems that a lot of your early comedic influences are from Jewish comics.
Well, Lily isn't, Cher isn't, Flip Wilson isn't, but yes, so half of them.
Yeah. And I actually read in your bio that you had reconnected with your Judaism after reading The Complete Idiot's Guide to Jewish History and Culture. My parents actually converted to Judaism after reading that and the book Understanding Judaism. So what made you decide in the first place to try and reconnect with the Jewish roots?
So, somebody asked me if I wanted to write a script about a female rabbi. And so, knowing not that much about my heritage, I read the Idiot's Guide to Judaism. I'm looking for it. It's like on my bookshelf still. But yeah, I perform a lot for Jewish groups, and I grew up in a very Jewish neighborhood, but we just I guess we wanted to assimilate, so we celebrated everything.
Mhm.
But yes, I do feel closer to my roots now than I did growing up. I still don't talk about it on stage, maybe just because I haven't found what I want to say about being Jewish yet.
Well, it's a coincidence. My own rabbi is actually female and also even a police chaplain. So it's definitely
So
definitely.
Moonlighting.
Yeah. Are you sure you didn't write part of the story of my life? So something I like to ask any comedian that comes on the show, because it usually gets either it gets a resounding answer either way. So, are you the funniest person in your family?
No. Oh, you want to know who?
Yeah, might as well.
Well, my husband is the funniest person I know. I don't know if you met in my like nuclear family, but I haven't lived with them for many years now.
Well, I just like asking that question because it's either a resounding yes, where it's like, I had to be funny to do something that's boring family, or it's a resounding no, and I was like, no, I had to deal with this other funny person, and I had to try and one up.
Well, I don't even think I'm the funniest person in a comedy club that I mean, like during my show. I think I'm just the one doing it longer. Honestly, I think it's like a muscle, and but back to my husband. He's the funniest person I know. He wrote on a sitcom called Boy Meets World. Do you know that show?
Oh yeah, I actually know that one.
Yeah, and but he's very shy. So he says he would go on stage and pee in his pants.
Well then.
But he is the funniest person I know. And every night I get to hear his 5-minute stand-up routine about the day.
You do often find that when it comes to like comedians or comedic writers, either get those that are comfortable on stage and are able to do the comedy, but still have the insecurity, or you have those that like sort of have to keep it all inside, but then they use that for writing for amazing programs, like a lot of the late night shows.
I'm not exactly sure I completely understand the question, except I think it's a spectrum of like there are some comedians I know who are always on. Is that what you mean? Like,
Oh,
when they're
I was
not
mostly-
on?
I was just kind of waxing philosophical for a second, but
Well, what do you think?
well, with comedians that I've talked to, and then just from what I've seen in documentaries and such, you have the spectrum of incredibly funny, but still a little bit introverted, but are able to go up on stage. And then you've got those that keep their comedy to their writing. But either way, it's all hilarious content.
Well, apparently Johnny Carson didn't like to socialize. He was great, but he was on his show, but apparently he didn't like to maybe have to be on. But as I said, I've met people who have to. It was interesting during the pandemic. Some of us did Zoom comedy shows.
Talked with Jackie Cation about that.
What?
Jackie Cation about the Zoom comedy.
So
She was so helpful to me. I love her. She was so helpful to me she was my first Zoom comedy show. So I feel like she taught me the ropes. But there were some comedians who had to have the audience, like the laughs they were jonesing. And I'm not that way. So it was fun, but I didn't feel like I needed it like some of my friends.
So just so one thing that we're asking, or the big question that we're asking all the guests this season, just a fun little thing to end off the whole thing on. If you could bring back any 2 people from the dead for 24 hours, who would you bring back and what would you do with them?
I guess I would bring back, you should ask people to think of this before, because what came to mind was Einstein and Eleanor Roosevelt. But honestly, I would want to bring my grandparents, Ruth and Froman, back and just talk to them and eat with them and laugh with them.
All right. Well, yeah, that's why I kind of don't lead in with this big question, because if you can get people to think about it in the moment, then you get a really genuine answer like that. As if you ask somebody this in advance and give them a day to think about it, they'll have to run through all the things okay, who would be the most important in the aggregate, and who would I have to use this part on? But catch them in the moment and get a nice personal answer.
Xander, only you would think of who's the aggregate.
Overachiever.
Overthinker. And
what does round roach mean?
Round rock.
Oh, round rock.
Oh, round rock. Is that
where we are. Also, the new background for this season. I think it's working pretty well. All right. So with all that said, Wendy Liebman, everybody. We'll be right back.
Oh, hey, thank you very much for watching. We'd like to thank Wendy Liebman for being a great guest and a fantastic interview. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and as always, it is what it is.